Friends and enemies, welcome back to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. I'm getting a notification here that our Twitch profile is not going to let me do the live stream tonight. That's okay.
Darn Twitch. What's going on?
No one watches there anyway. It doesn't matter. My name's Joey. That's Len. This is number 186. Len. What a day. What a weekend in price. Lots of talk last week about our favorite Mike Saylor. Lots of talk about governments getting upset and worried about Bitcoin. We'll get to all that as usual. But first, buddy, how the heck are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, Joey. I'm still kind of reeling at what's happened with Michael Saylor this past couple of days. I'll be honest, I don't give it. We'll talk about that in a bit.
I'm sure.
All is good. Joey, it's beautiful outside, eh? Like we're 2 months away and a few days till Christmas, and still it's just gorgeous outside. Like, come on. How can anybody not like this weather? If you don't like this weather, I mean, go move up north, further up north, because this is beautiful.
Totally.
Joey, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I think I may or may not be developing some kind of stomach bug. I haven't been able to stay off the can today. That may be TMI, but good weekend. Got our first indoor football game of the year in. What else did I do this weekend? Had some friends over yesterday for the games, Sunday afternoon games. Went to a little fire Saturday night. You know, usual stuff. Recorded an episode of Two Whites and a Blue on Friday night. That's out now.
When's the last time that's been done?
Almost a year. So yeah, because Mike's been really busy. He moved out. Will's been busy, bought a new place, and I've been busy obviously with our stuff and some other stuff going on. So we did record one though. If you haven't, if you unsubscribed because you thought the feed was dead, let me tell you something. Okay, it's not. But
so moving forward, and what is going to be the deal? Is it going to be
the cadence? I don't know. Whenever I can get the boys together. Mike messaged me on Friday night. I was actually drawing up the play cards for Saturday's game, and he just said, I feel like doing a pod. I said, buddy, come on over. No problem. I'll set it up. So we ripped for about an hour and 15 minutes. Talked about all things millennial finance lifestyle, the usual. It was good. Yeah. So go definitely subscribe to that feed if you haven't already. We can talk about that. We can get to the sponsors maybe first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some housekeeping stuff because we got some majors coming up this week, next week, and afterwards. So, Len, Easy DNS, Mark, fantastic guy. Mark was with me on Saturday at the Step Up for Wayside. I should have mentioned that when I was talking about my weekend. I did that Saturday as well. Great turnout. Chief of Police Steve Paikin was there, and his father. Coming out to support the Wayside House of Hamilton, and Mark was there. He's a new board director. Not only is he a board director, though, he's a sponsor of the show, friend of the show, and friend of Len and I personally at this point. And you can't really go wrong with using EasyDNS for all your registrar needs. Mark is the friendly neighborhood registrar, as he likes to say. Whether it is making sure you are secure on the domain side with something like DomainSure, great product. We talk about that on Axis of Easy, his podcast every week. Or it's making sure that you're not going to be taken down for the content you post, or it's making sure that you're using PGP and GPG email, or it's getting access to a suite of products through the WordPress plugins and through the virtual private server stuff and through the many, many, many different options that EasyDNS provides to you when you sign up for a domain with them. You don't even have to buy your domain there, Len. You can just bring one over. No problem. Mark helped us with that the first time, and we've since been buying and renewing with him over at EasyDNS. So use our promo code CBP Media when you go over. Start your website. Use Mark, 50% off your first round of buys. So what do you always say? If you're getting 50% off your first round of buys, what should you do? Load the cart, baby. Yeah, load the cart, 100%.
Why not? Unload. Get every service they have to offer, and then it's going to be half off.
Spend enough that your wife's going to be mad. CBP Media, and you can't go wrong over there. EasyDNS.com.
I like Bull Bitcoin because they're our second sponsor. And one good thing that Bull Bitcoin offers is non-custodial. That's been a topic of debate for the past day or two in X Twitter, Bitcoin Twitter. Custodial shit, having the ownership of your keys. Bull Bitcoin, when you buy your Bitcoin through them, they never hold on to the Bitcoin. They send it to you directly. You provide your address where you want to send to. So when you perform the buy, it gets sent right away after the order is completed. So that's a wonderful thing. Bull Bitcoin has that feature. Not many, in fact, very few exchanges around the world have that. Buy, sell, you can do it on-chain Lightning. There's, again, not many that gives you these options here. the fees were jumping up not too long ago. Last week, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but the on-chain fees were getting a little bit pricey. So people should hopefully have started using Lightning, learning how to use it, learning how to buy, learning how to self-custody your Lightning Bitcoin. But if you do, Bull Bitcoin, they'll be happy to sell you the Bitcoin through Lightning. Also, they'll buy it from you as well. So if you're looking to sell your Bitcoin, you're good to go. You can also pay your bills with your Bitcoin. So, you've been stacking for a long period of time. The price of Bitcoin has gone up since you first bought. Well, what could you do with it? You could pay some of the bills and take those large debts that you have on your name and just basically erase them, all thanks to the gains you made with Bitcoin. Of course, Bull Bitcoin is going to help facilitate that. Another thing they'll help you with is buying gift cards. They have a variety of gift cards available that you can buy through them with your Bitcoin, and you can start spending those gift cards in the real world. So you're kind of indirectly spending your Bitcoin in the real world and using it like that. You're living on a Bitcoin standard. We don't have that here in Canada, maybe one day, but Bull Bitcoin at least can make a virtual version of that with their gift cards. Open up an account if you haven't already done so. And if you do, and fund your account and provide the necessary information, $21 will be added to your account. No questions asked.
Third sponsor, Decentral Technologies. Len, these guys are making mining easy. So friendly, your wife won't even mind. So quiet that you can't even hear it when David St. Onge runs a BitX all through the podcast you do with him here on CBP. Whether you're getting an S19, S21, getting some repairs done, you need a new board, you need casing, you need some stuff to help heat your house, you want to buy a doll, you want to buy whatever when it comes to mining. And actually Bitcoin more broadly, these guys probably have what you're looking for at a great price, run by a great group of guys over there, Jonathan and the team. We love what they're doing. And I know many of you bought the CBP branded BitX, which should be shipping soon. This week, next week, something like that. It was supposed to be mid-October, but they're busy over there. You can't get mad if they ship it a bit later than they said. I don't know if they're going to or not, but it's a small operation. And as you guys know, if you spend any time on Bitcoin Twitter, the popularity of home mining has absolutely skyrocketed in the last 6 months. So they're very busy, but I promise you'll get what you're looking for. And of course, we don't have a promo code because we, never agreed on one, and they don't seem to care, and we don't care. And I just want to support them, and I want home mining to become part of everyone's sort of onboarding process, along with node running, which I also have to do. Maybe, like I said, when I get my miner, I'll set up a node at the same time. That seems appropriate. But in the interim, Decentral Technologies, go to their website, buy something, Anon, and get on board with the decentralization of mining and hash rate. Let's do some housekeeping. Housekeeping for this week. Tomorrow night.
Let's go last week first. I mean, big thanks to Boomer.
Boomer.
I mean, we gotta give him kudos, right?
Yeah.
Like before we even go anywhere. Like, come on, man. The man, he stepped up last second.
It's huge. It's huge. Boomer's been a big part of the show, both in the live chats. He's been our guest booker from time to time, co-host from time to time, and a number of other roles he's played over the years we've been doing the program. Enough that we actually have a group chat with Boomer. So he's in the CBP dojo pretty often with us. So we appreciate him helping us with our Guillaume in the chat. They're asking if you can co-host. Sure, Guillaume.
Why not?
No problem. Hey, listen, we're gonna be looking for a couple of co-hosts in a row pretty soon. So I'll put you on the list.
He can replace me.
Yeah, right.
Why not?
The show,
way better than me.
The show last week was supposed to be with Sly Goon, but we'll get him on in November for sure. Jeff's still one of our favorites, and we have to have him on. Tomorrow, the one and only Mike Campbell making his third or fourth CBP appearance. Looking forward to talking to him about all things Canada, all things, I'll try not to be a black pill episode tomorrow, but Mike, I said this before, if you've been listening to his show, he has been gloves off, man, in the last little while over on Money Talks, talking to a lot of great people. Looking forward to sitting down with him, as I always do. Coming up next week, Ben Rabidou will be on the show, and I'm looking forward to speaking with him about all things housing and immigration. He was ahead of the curve on a lot of the issues that are now on vogue to discuss, both in Parliament and in polite conversation over dinner. And he was on it before they were popular. So looking forward to speaking with him as well. I've been a big fan of his for a long time and following him on Twitter. And then Len, after that, I may as well tell people now, You may not see me for like another month after that. I may be, taking care of things at home here for that time. It looks like we're going to be rolling shortly after that. Kenzie is due middle November, but that baby is big. So I don't know if I'll be doing any interview shows. I'm going to do the flagship for as long as I can, but I am not going to book any more interviews probably until December. I would
Even
guess.
then, Christmas is coming up. You're probably not going to be doing anything until January.
We'll see. We'll see. I can't stay away for too long, buddy. You know how it is.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyways, you're talking to Mike Campbell. John
Yeah.
Delaney's talking in the chat. He's asking, you're going to be talking about the shit show of the
Oh,
elections in
with
BC.
Mike, probably. Yeah, sure. I don't see why not.
Incredibly, Joey. El Salvador. I did some research on this. El Salvador had an election, a general election, I think last year or
Yeah, it was last year. It was last year. Yeah.
Their population is, I believe, 6.3 million people live in El Salvador.
Yeah.
In BC, I believe the population is around 5.5-ish million.
I like where this is going. Yeah, I like where this is going.
A country which, by all metrics, you say Canada has all the resources, has everything available to them. It's going to take a week to figure out who's won the election. El Salvador wrapped it up in hours.
There's cheating.
I know. I'm not going there.
I am. There's cheating. What other explanation is there for this? We don't know how to count. Are we using abacuses now instead of like electronic counting machines, or what are we doing?
I'm not trying to connect dots. Are
we performing seances before we open the ballot? Like, what are we doing? We're cheating.
I don't know. I'm not
cheating.
going there.
Okay, well, I will. It's cheating. Everyone knows the only reason that it takes time to count votes is because there's cheating going on. That's a fact.
So there you go. Hope you and Mike Campbell will be able to figure out.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
What's going on.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll be solving a lot of the world's problems tomorrow. I expect Mike will come again with the gloves off like he always does.
All right. Boost. What do you say, Joey?
Yeah,
happy a couple of them I want to get off my chest here. Wartime, 333 sats. He says GM. Good morning, I guess it is, and a couple of beer mugs.
Who's drinking in the morning? I still don't get this. We talked about this the other day. Like, when is the time you can have beers in the morning?
Depends how wealthy you are.
Another one I thought about the other day was the day I got married. We were definitely having beers in the morning, but just me and my friends. Yeah, there's a few times you could do it probably.
So that was a time to celebrate. Now, maybe wartime, every day is a time to celebrate because life is good. I'm assuming he's healthy. He's taking life to the fullest, and Bitcoin is there still to be purchased on the cheap, at least in my eyes. So look. Good morning.
Drink in the morning. Cheap Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I would suggest not the beers, save the money and stack more sats. But that's just my suggestion.
Totally.
Do whatever you want. Not financial advice. Mo BTC Dick, 500 sats. Now that the Fosser has come back to the space, do you think you might try to get him on to CBP?
Yes. He lives like half an hour from me. And I have another yellow chair here that you can see that my brother-in-law was in on Friday that Greg would, fit very well in for an hour. And I'd even take him for lunch after at the local spot, the Collins here in Dundas. That's where any guest who comes to CBP who wants to go for lunch after, it's on me every single time. Happy to. So Greg, we'll see you soon, I hope, buddy. Come on over. You take a walk. We can walk to the pub, Greg. Can't beat it.
It's going to be getting chilly soon.
It's all right.
And when you first have the little one, you kind of want to limit how many people come in initially.
Oh, sure.
That little one is, susceptible to getting everything. You want to let it build some tolerance, give it a few weeks, maybe longer, and then floodgates, just open it up. Come on in.
Good advice there. Good advice from a father.
Yeah. You want to build immunity as soon as possible, but within reason, of course. That's it for my shit. I'm not sure if you want anything else that you want to check off.
I don't think we have anything else to mention. Can you think of anything? I'm not sure.
No, I mean, in terms of like,
I'll tell you what, I started posting to the TikTok account because our AI software allows automatic posting across a couple different platforms. So I refreshed the TikTok account. So if you have the Chinese, if you have the Chinese spyware app on your phone, I'd appreciate your eyes and your subscription. I will literally never be there, but it's just the top of funnel, thing to get people into the long form stuff. That's all. So if you're on that app, find us.
Happens, yeah. Well, Instagram is also available. We'll talk about that.
That's garbage too. Oh my god,
it's garbage. I mean, I don't know. It's the lesser.
Until we see Zuckerberg squatting 225 on video, I got to stay off those apps.
So then that's Snapchat. Or
Snapchat's independent. I don't use Snapchat anyway, but
WhatsApp,
WhatsApp is them. Yeah.
Facebook, or Meta.
Facebook, Met the blue app is what they call it on the investor calls. Instagram, WhatsApp.
That's it, right? This is the big three that they have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Stealing my data at every turn. Anyway, we may as well get into it. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Mike? I'm assuming you want to start with Mike.
We could talk about that really quick, and I have nothing.
Really quick? You want to talk about it?
What am I going to say? Like,
everyone knows what your stance is going to be, but I still think they want to hear the rant.
No, but what am I going to say if it's not your coin, not your keys, not your coin? Make sure if you're going to have something, at least my humble opinion, you have the ability to move the Bitcoin. And if you don't, it's no longer yours. It's somebody else's they have ownership. It's too bad that MicroStrategy uses a third party to do custodial services for their Bitcoin. We talked about, but I still want to see what rationale, what laws, what regulations, what precludes them from doing self-custody. I hear potentially yes, I hear potentially no. And if there's potentially yes, show me. Show me the piece of paper showing they can't. I'd love to know. Because they should, right? Like, they're talking about these banks trusting these bigger banks. Like, what the fuck are you gonna trust, right? Like, Bitcoiners. One of the best things about Bitcoin is you could custody your own Bitcoin. You could, quote unquote, be your own bank.
I agree.
Why give up that? I understand that people want it to buy into the company itself, and that's a totally different argument altogether. But for him to say that trusting these bigger banks to custody your Bitcoin, at least his Bitcoin,
it's not even that he says trusting the bigger banks is a good idea. Like, I don't. It's not that I don't disagree or agree necessarily with that sentiment. The sentiment I really don't agree with from Saylor is where he says that the government is never going to come door to door and get your Bitcoin because we're not on a Bitcoin standard the way we were on a gold standard when this happened in the 70s. And like, I don't think that that's actually the case. Actually, Francis had a great tweet that I'm just kind of thinking of now that I should have saved.
Be careful with what you say there.
Well, the point is that the government in recent years, all over the world, took steps that before that would have seemed very drastic. They would have seemed very drastic. They would have seemed maybe not irrational, but certainly not, subject to the rigorous debate that something of that nature should be subjected to before it's imposed on a population in a democratic society. And the idea that that same apparatus won't seize your Coinbase account if the necessity is a very nebulous term. If the necessity arises, I think is not a game you necessarily want to be playing. That said, I still own MicroStrategy, the stock. I still think that it's a decent play if you have like a tax-free savings account and you don't want to buy the ETFs, fine. But I just think that more than anything, Len, even though we disagree sometimes on some of the sort of fringe content when it comes to custody, and I know we've talked about like corporate custody and stuff, the one thing I think we can agree on that we have been right on since we started talking about it is Saylor is a narrative pusher. And that narrative now is pumping his stock price more than anything else. And he can talk about the Bitcoin balance sheet all he wants. He can talk about, custody all he wants. He can talk about he's running a software company now that develops Bitcoin. He can talk about any of that stuff all he wants. But if you look at his public speaking clips, his public speaking podcast appearances, his conference stuff, everything is geared toward pumping the stock price. He's now mentioned in the last 6 months, Bitcoin's not money. Bitcoin can coexist with the dollar. You don't need to worry about custodying your Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is an alternative to Bitcoin. That's not a guy who cares that much about Bitcoin, I don't think. Where do you come down? I think we agree on that. Seems to me that like that's the case anyway. Maybe
for the most part, I just want to go a little bit further back. 6102, that's when the government would come in and essentially take it from you and give you the equivalent value in US dollars, at least of today's vote. I look at that. Okay, that is a remote potential. Like it's very, very small that could potentially happen. I think the bigger issue, is a potential rug by a hack. To me, that seems to be a bigger thing that could happen. You have your
A hack on
Bitcoin
who?
on Coinbase or wherever,
Oh, okay.
because you have your Bitcoin stored somewhere. Theoretically, I think that's a honeypot, and you're going to get all these attackers trying to get in and get access to it. I think each day it's very small. The percentage of this becoming a reality is very small.
Okay.
But the next day it's probably just as small it is, but you're just rolling the dice every time. It's like you're trying to build a block in Bitcoin with a bit axe. Chances are really small, but every once in a while you get that solo miner that gets it, and the odds were just so fucking high, but it got it. And it's kind of like this: every day that we pass, there's a potential that this could get rugged. 6102, most likely not, by a hack from North Koreans or somebody similar,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay. Fine.
Probably, but it's very small still. But
It's
still,
still
you're rolling the
small.
dice every
Yeah.
fucking day.
It's still small. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to address something John is saying in the chat, that, you know, the 6102 maybe is not the actual attack vector that we should be looking at. It's something like what Italy's done with the capital gains, right? Going from something to 42%. I think I can't remember, it was 16 or
26 to 42, something like that.
It had the numbers there, two different versions of it. So, you know, that's another option too. And I would be curious to hear what Saylor says about that, because, you know, he talks a lot about how they're not going to 6102 Bitcoin, not going to confiscate it. We, the three of us, me, you, and Mike's not here, obviously, but me, you, and Mike agree that 6102 is like not super likely. I don't think it's as unlikely as he does. And it sounds like you and me are close to aligned on that. But what I do think is like fairly likely, especially if Trump loses in November, that the US really does put down some kind of insane capital gains tax law on Bitcoin specifically. They carve one out.
What is it right now? Is it 50%?
No carve out. There's no carve out for Bitcoin. So whatever cap gains is, Bitcoin is in there. The thing with Italy is that they did a carve out for Bitcoin. That's the problem, right?
It was all digital assets
or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So that's like, it's intentionally grabbing one sort of sector of the capital gains swath, right? So that's, to me, that's more likely than what we're talking about with Saylor and MicroStrategy and gold and all that.
Yeah, I could see that being a reality. Michael Saylor, though, I think we all have to acknowledge the fact that he may like Bitcoin. I mean, for sure he likes Bitcoin, because he wouldn't do what he's done to date with Bitcoin. But he is, and we really have to acknowledge this, he is a fiat dude. Everything he does, everything he's lived to this point is all within the fiat environment. His company is a fiat company.
Yeah, dude. Is he okay? I get what you're saying, but I want to be clear about something. Maybe we agree on this. Is he a fiat guy or is he a compliance guy?
I think they're the same, in my opinion. The way I look at it, the company he set up would not have been created without having the SEC, or first he would have to register it within the United States. So he has to file the paperwork, and eventually it's grown to the point it could be publicly traded. So the SEC allowed him to be traded publicly. So there's a series of hoops he has to jump through, and he has to, as compliance and all that shit. But it's still a fiat world, right? Like, it's very difficult for somebody like that. And I don't mean to defend him, but I think this is the reality. Very smart dude, but he has been plugged into this fiat world for so long. It's so difficult to unplug from it and to look things through a Bitcoin lens. It's just virtually impossible. And even if he does that, his company is still going to be operating within the fiat world. So until the company, I guess, stops being publicly traded, he takes it private and does whatever he wants with it, it's going to be just a fiat company. He's going to look at things through a fiat lens, and he's a fiat Bitcoiner. He understands that this is a scarce asset. He understands certain things of it, but other things, he's a fiat Bitcoiner. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. And that's cool. He, with respect to his company, and we've talked about it in the past, he has found the cheat sheet where he's simply just borrowing on or diluting and then buying more Bitcoin. And this works until it doesn't. But it seems like so far it has worked quite well, because when he first bought it back in 2020 August, Bitcoin was what, at that point, like 27,000, whatever the heck it was. It was, in hindsight, a great decision. So for him to get to the point where it's going to be his average buy-in price is negative, Bitcoin has got to drop a lot. So he looks like he made a very good decision here. But still, come on, guys. Like, do whatever you want with buying it or not buying MSTR. I don't give a fuck. You know my opinion about it.
I know.
Everybody has their own, they can do what they want with their money. But for God's sakes, if you're gonna fucking be a Bitcoiner, learn how to fucking custody your Bitcoin. This fundamental of Bitcoin, do not give it up. It makes no sense to give it up, because if you do, you potentially have there's the potential of losing it. Why risk it if you can't trust yourself to hold either 12 and or 24 keys and maybe a passphrase on top of it or multi-sig? Fuck, come on, man. Like, there's far more things that we've been, like you were saying, like, people remember all these things: your email address, the password to your work computer, the password to your home. Like, there's all these things people remember. It's not hard to fucking remember this shit
Right.
and store it somewhere. You could do it. Learn it. And if you fucking have problems with, I'll show you the fucking thing. I'll take you 9/10 of the way there, and you can walk that last little bit. It's not that hard.
Yeah. Okay. We can leave this topic. It's just interesting. It's really brought the passion out of a lot of people in a way I didn't think that it would. I thought everyone kind of knew this about Saylor already, but I guess not.
He gets a lot of attention, and I think people look at him.
He picks his. I gotta know, like, not. I don't really want him on CBP. I would take him if he wanted to come, but like, I'm not gonna ask him to come on this show. I got to know how he picks his podcast. Is another thing I am starting to kind of take note of. Like, what is Markets with Maddie? Like, I've never heard of this show before. It doesn't have that many. It has more subs than us, but like on YouTube, anyways. I don't know how many listens it gets, but there's not that many. Like, it's not that popular a channel, right? So like, why?
Is it possible they paid him?
It's not. It's possible they paid him. It's possible that he just wants, like I said before, a place to bulldoze somebody, and the Bitcoin crowd is not that friendly to it anymore. And so he just picks a new place where he can steamroll, right? That's my working thesis. It continues to be my belief that he only cares about being able to get off 30 or 35 minutes of uninterrupted narrative pushing if he does a show. And there's not that many Bitcoin shows that'll let him do it anymore.
People are saying he may be a spook, and I don't buy that fucking thing.
I don't think he's a spook.
He's just a fiat
Jesus
dude.
Christ! Every Bitcoiner thinks this guy's a spook. Like, I know, but like, everyone is like, "Oh, he's a spook. He's a spook." Like, first of all, like,
he's just a regular guy
like, he's a flawed guy. You know, like, I think he's got half the stuff he says I think is pretty bright, and I think is broadly correct, and then he says some stuff that I disagree with. It's hard, not a spook. Jesus Christ! Stop with the spook talk.
Look at what's going on in Europe with the European Central Bank and also the Federal Reserve. There's a couple of reports that are interesting. I'll do this one chronologically. So I got to start with the ECB, and they're talking about early adopters of Bitcoin getting wealthy.
Is this not the most communist bullshit you've ever heard?
No, this is. They're saying that people.
It's commie nonsense. It's commie nonsense.
No, the way I'm looking at this is they look at this like a shitcoin where it's exit liquidity, right? They're saying that people right now are going to be funding and making the early adopters wealthy. So today I'm looking at that and they're saying you're exit liquidity. That's what you. But
okay.
Fuck,
fair enough.
I'm looking at it. That's through that point of view. I mean, either way, I mean, it's like truly a no coiners sentiment here. Like, how could anybody even consider that this is the case? Either way. If that is the case, the argument could be applied to everything, anything. Pick whatever company that you want to invest in or have invested in. Shareholders of insert company name have always, the early adopters have always benefited as long as the company was successful. And they were the beneficiaries compared to the people that coming in later on. This is always the fucking case. Even not just fucking shareholders and company. It's even with real estate for the most part. As long as real estate, wherever you live in, has been going up. If you bought it a long time ago compared to now, right? Like, this is the same bullshit. So like, I don't fucking buy it. People look at Bitcoin as an asset that you could be free from debasement. These guys, they don't present anything else that's free from debasement. So like, no. Fuck off. So it's really supply, scarcity, demand. That's what you should be looking at, not looking at this and making these people wealthy at the expense of newcomers, whatever. Doesn't this shit make you more bullish on Bitcoin though?
It does for sure. The funniest thing is that these two people, Bin Sale and Schaff, they've written 3 articles about Bitcoin in the last 2 years. Okay. This one the other day, whenever this was, like, a week ago or something like that, they wrote this one in 2022. I don't have them in front of me. I should have, again, like, saved this. If I was feeling better today, I would remember to do all this shit. In 2022, they wrote an article, or sorry, earlier this year, they wrote an article, I should say, when the ETFs came out, and it said, the title of the article was "The Naked Emperor's New Clothes." And it was about how the ETFs were a fraud, basically, and Bitcoin still had no value and wasn't an investable asset, blah, blah, blah. In 2020, or 2022, I should say, you know what the article they wrote? You may remember this. Bitcoin's death knell or something like that. They basically said that Bitcoin was 17K. FTX wasn't even needed to drive this thing to complete irrelevance and worthlessness, blah, blah, blah. So these guys are basically writing stuff that's just always wrong. These people are the same ones who want to dictate to you about what economic policy should be. They want to do things like absolutely crush the value of Bitcoin with ridiculous taxes. Tour has a pretty good thread about this. I won't rehash all of it, but there's a couple of good like quotes in here that truly are just detached from reality. So I'm going to read a couple of them. In absolute terms, early adopters exactly increase their wealth and consumption at the expense of real wealth and consumption. Real wealth and consumption. What the fuck does that mean? Of those who do not hold Bitcoin or who invest in it only at a later stage. The new Lamborghini, Rolex, villa, and equity portfolios by early Bitcoin investors are financed by diminishing consumption and wealth of those who initially do not hold Bitcoin. This redistribution of wealth and purchasing power is unlikely to occur without detrimental consequences for society. Even if the latecomers cannot attribute their loss of purchasing power, they will feel a malaise and frustration that will contribute further to an ever more split society. You're fucking retarded. You guys have been doing the exact same thing, all that shit, with your native currency. The Americans do it. The Canadians do it. The European countries do it at the ECB level. They all do it. They just don't want you to benefit. They're fine with being first to the trough as long as they're the ones who are eating the slop as it comes down from the feeder. But heaven forbid that you get on top of something in a way that they weren't able to, weren't seeing, weren't able to understand, laughed at, and now they're going to be the ones who show up late to the party. And yeah, you do deserve to be the fucking exit liquidity, guys. That's your role now. You held on to this thing so fucking long, even as everybody told you that this thing was not long for this world, even as you pretended that debt was as valuable as functional money, even as you pretended that the fiat currency would last forever, even though none had ever lasted forever before. You deserve it. That's all there is to it. Whatever trough you end up eating from now, it will be the one that you earned the slop of. Period. End of story. I have no sympathy for these people at all. None.
See, and I like that because I believe that Bitcoiners are psychopaths and don't care about anybody else. And you said what you said there pretty much echoes.
Proof. It's proof.
Yeah. So I like that. Truly, we're psychopaths. So not to be outdone, the ECB did their thing, but then the Federal Reserve came out with a report talking about the legal prohibition.
The Minneapolis Fed. Yeah, the Minneapolis Fed.
Right,
yeah.
But it's part of the fucking crew, right? Like, let's be honest. I don't care. As long as it has Federal Reserve in it, that's it. I'm fucking clumping you all together. Guilty by association. And they say they're going to, the report said about legal prohibition on Bitcoin or implementing a tax as to a way to potentially stop its adoption or people wanting to get it or whatever. Like, come on, man. At this point, people want it because the alternatives out there fucking suck. There are people out there that are buying gold, and that's fine. That's your choice. I would recommend people look into history, what happens with confiscation of gold. I'm not talking about 6102. I'm talking about other things. Also about transportability of gold. You can't really transport it easily and quickly. And verification of gold is very costly as well. Bitcoin solves a lot of those problems. But either way, if people are buying gold, all the more power to you. But this is the reality. People are trying to find other alternatives out there. They're not happy with just simply holding on to cash. They're just trying to buy anything. Is it going to be a metal, precious metal? Is it going to be a ownership into a company? It's going to be Bitcoin, where the fuck it is. Holding on to cash makes no fucking sense. There's nothing they could do to make Bitcoin less attractive. Fuck, even if they go to the nth degree and ban Bitcoin, right? They just say, you know what? Bitcoin, purchasing it, selling it, all these exchanges are done. Mining it in the United States, no longer possible. it's still gonna work. And you know what? The price of it is gonna be still very high. Look at shit that's already been banned. And I'm trying to say, like, look at drugs, but look at drugs.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to get. People fucking want it for a variety of reasons. Fucking price goes up. Right? So there's nothing. The horse has left the barn. You can't close the door and try to contain that horse. It's a long fucking gone.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree. Some good quotes from this one. Government stock is like Bitcoin, a claim to nothing. While the government may be paying a dividend, it does so not by distributing a primary surplus, but by simply printing more claims to nothing. Incredible. Also, maybe worth noting here that Matthew Siegel, who was the guy I sent you the tweets of, this is crazy, right? Like the thing that I think is important here is that they know that the consumer is smart enough to understand that the debt game is failing, right? We've talked about on the show how Lagarde has spoken about Bitcoin and other crypto assets as escape hatches. We have to, cover the doors basically while the theater is on fire and make sure people just roast. And now these guys are basically saying the same thing. This idea that they have to be able to have primary deficit in order to protect the system is one that's it's no longer in the best interests of the majority of market participants. I think it's clear. It may never have been in the majority of market participants' best interest, but now that majority, thanks to stuff like Twitter, thanks to stuff like, our show and other shows and Tour's tweets and his reports, like now everyone can see this. And so, as I've said before, as will continue to play out, there will start to be a real pinch on people talking about Bitcoin in terms of currency replacement and currency value replacement and hard asset replacement, because there's just no way that this is going to work unless they tell people to stop talking about it. And they, again, they is a term that we try not to use on the show, but we end up using it a lot anyways. The banks simply were not prepared for how quickly everyone would wake up to this phenomenon. And whether or not you own Bitcoin or not is no longer even the question, it seems, for these guys. The question is actually, do you know about it? And if you know about it, what does that do to the faith and power of the debt-based currency regime? That's tough. Taxing Bitcoin to ensure government debt remains the only risk-free security. You could try, I guess, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. The other thing I would point out to people, especially the tax simps out there, we need taxes to build roads and hospitals. Again, don't want to use the R word twice in one show, but you know what I'm going to call you. And the reason I'm going to call you that is because this is an admission that taxes are a behavioral nudge, not a mechanism for funding government operations. There's no other way to discuss taxes at this point. If you are one of these R words who still think that taxes are meant to fund operations and not to keep you in your place and force behaviors, I think it's probably time to get a helmet and make sure your shoes are Velcro before you leave the house. Because we can't have people like you out there. You're not going to contribute. You're going to vote the wrong way all the time. You're not going to raise good kids. You're not going to contribute to the economy. We can't have you hurting this cause just because you're too short-sighted and too stupid. They're telling you here what the taxes are meant for, and it's not for sewers and hospitals. You got to figure the rest out yourself.
I got to go talk about BitAxe right now because I like talking about BitAxe, and BitAxe users make note that a new firmware has been released, version 2.3.0, and this was released in the past few days. And essentially, it's just some bug fixes and new improvements. Like for one instance, it's allows for the connection to open Wi-Fi networks, and I assume this is going to make it easier for people to mine on the go to find that open network and just connect to it and mine. I don't know. There's some overheat alert and overheat mode improvements. And this might be for people that overclock, but I'm not 100% sure. But there's a whole bunch of other things. What I would suggest, that the bin file is out there for people who want to upgrade the firmware to your BitAxe. And as always, the source code is available for everybody to see. The instructions can be found on github.com/Scott, SKOT, /ESP-miner. And that's where you can find everything, instructions, the source code, the bins, everything you need to upgrade the firmware to your bit axes.
I have no comment on that.
Yeah,
That's good.
there's nothing else.
Upgrade your firmware. Yeah, don't wait. Don't wait. Act now.
So let's talk about this beauty that's now being traded on the Nasdaq. It's the new ETF called the STKD Bitcoin and Gold ETF, and the ticker is BTGD. And so the gist of this, as per Cointelegraph, it's an actively managed ETF, and it seeks to provide 100% exposure to its Bitcoin strategy and 100% exposure to its gold strategy. So it's intended to have a mix of ETFs and futures tied to the price both of Bitcoin and gold. Very interesting that now there's this.
I kind of like it. It's like the hard money ETF, right? And hard money these days is outperforming. I think this is a kind of a neat thing. Where's the 2x bull leverage version of this? That's what we need.
So there's futures involved with this, and to be perfectly frank, I can't speak with authority on it. I'm not sure if this is something that tends to work in the long run. I don't know, but it's just something to note for people that want to buy into this in their tax free or tax whatever account. So BTGD on a Nasdaq. Have fun staying poor if you're going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I've been impressed with the gold move, and I think Bitcoiners should be paying attention to the gold move, because what always happens, we outperform gold like crazy in these markets. Excuse me, and we are on the cusp of something major here. I think a lot of the guys who seem to be right a lot of the time about tailwinds, headwinds, and sort of measured moves, and I know TA is at least a little bit, for the birds, but it would be nice to have a nice, breakthrough to 100K, 120K on the back of what's been a great year for gold, a Trump election win, and, some technicals on the Bitcoin side that look like we're due. I'd be happy with that. And so when I know that Bitcoiners don't all like gold, but you have to at least look at it and respect that the ancient rock is doing its thing in a way that it hasn't done its thing in a long time. That's something to pay attention to if you're a hard money guy, for sure.
It makes me wonder, at what point would a Bitcoiner look at gold?
I bought a gold chain last year because I thought this was going to happen. That was I told my wife 100 times this is the reason I'm doing it. Like, I never wear the chain outside my neck. The thing is, if the gold gets any more expensive, I'll have to leave the chain in a vault or something. I won't be able to leave the house with it.
Then that's the thing that I always wonder. When gold gets expensive, you got to find somebody to hold on to it. And then when you do get your hands in it, how easy it is to liquidate. And if you want to move it, how easy.
If you ever want to liquidate some gold, you let me know. Okay. It's a deep market. You just got to know the right people.
Yeah, of course. But Bitcoin, though, a lot of these problems that gold has, it's eliminated. So that's what I'm looking at. At what point, if Bitcoin is trading 50% of its all-time high, and gold is, let's say, 100% of its all-time, so it's currently its all-time high right now, I'd still prefer Bitcoin just because of all the properties that come along. There has to be it's got to be a fraction of an all-time high from Bitcoin's all-time high versus gold being at its all-time high for me to even consider gold. So I like gold, but just too many things happened in the past few years that make me fuck it. It's not worth it.
Depends if you're into the whole Lindy man thing. Maybe you like the gold more than Bitcoin, but I think otherwise. And don't forget too, one of the things that's worth thinking about is the younger people aren't buying gold, but they will buy Bitcoin as the price moves, right? So there's a whole different demo there. We've talked about this in the past during other big time bull market moves. I'm hyped, man. I think this is a good thing for everybody to see gold doing this. It sends a message, and it's doing it in a rate environment that you wouldn't normally see this happen in. And the DXY is still above 103, I'm pretty sure too, which is generally a cross current. So it's good. This is a good sign.
And the young people are, I think, apt to go into debt, use credit card to buy the Bitcoin, declare bankruptcy. I lost a Bitcoin in a boating accident. And
nice, so good move.
Yeah,
good
move. See, there's some things.
Not financial advice, but that's not a bad move.
This is just all hypothetical. And if one allegedly does this, they're going to be, well, no, they're definitely not. I don't know what it's like in other jurisdictions, but here I think that bankruptcy stays with you for 7 years in Canada.
I have no idea. 7 years isn't that long.
It's a long time to not being able to get any credit cards or sign off for a loan for like a house, car. Like, it sucks. But if you load it up on Bitcoin, you're laughing, depending on how much you got. Speaking of, we talked about the SEC approving that one. Let's talk about something else, because the New York Stock Exchange, there's now options trading for all spot Bitcoin ETFs. And so they basically, it's not just any type of approval they gave it. They called it, quote unquote, accelerated approval.
Perfect.
So love that. So
we're living in a simulation land. We have to be
living in a simulation. Exactly that. I love this accelerated approval. So we're talking now the Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund, the ARC 21 shares Bitcoin ETF, the Invesco Galaxy Bitcoin ETF, and a whole bunch of others.
Okay.
So they all got approval as of last Friday. And as per Reuters, the index options, they are listed derivatives offering a quick and inexpensive way to amplify exposure onto Bitcoin. On a Bitcoin index that would give institutional investors and traders an alternate way to hedge their exposure to blah, blah, blah. So either way, I see this now. They're approving all these fucking things. Remember, it took them how long for them to approve?
Like, I'd say that the most generous answer is 3 years, probably.
And that happened last January, I think.
January, February, right?
Something around there. We need a CBP ETF. I think we got to file paperwork for this. It could help fund our retirements, and we could live. And if that's the case, we will stream this shit 24/7. So you'll have so if you invest in the ETF and it funds our beautiful retirement lives, I'll be somewhere warm. I don't know where Joey's going to be, but white sandy beaches for me, no winters. That's what I want. We'll be doing this 24/7, and hopefully we'll be in a place where no capital gains tax is going to be applied on the sale of our Bitcoin. So I hope that the SEC does go and approve the CBP ETF. Paperwork should be filed very, very soon. If anybody knows how to do this, let me know, because I have no idea. I like that. That's a good
the ticker for the audio side. Cuck from Boomer. That's a good idea. Yeah.
I think that they'll say no to that. Well, either way, fuck the SEC.
Do you care about, like, from a price perspective? I mean, you're the wrong guy to ask about price anyway, because you truly are just not caring about any of this stuff. But I see some people getting pretty hyped up about this on Twitter because it's more, I guess it'll add volatility, which we like in Bitcoin, or we're supposed to like in Bitcoin. I don't know how really if futures and options and whatnot work that well for Bitcoin, because it's not quite like an equity position would be. But I don't know enough about it to say one way or the other. I don't care about this. I've never looked at options on anything really, even though Wealthsimple tells me every day that I should be looking at options. So yeah, I don't recommend people buy this. Honestly, that is financial advice. I would stay away from this.
Oh no, it ain't. It ain't.
I would stay away.
Always do your own research.
Stay away.
Datum. We talked about the code the program last week. It was released by the folks from Ocean Mining. They took it a step further this past week because they released the source code as well as the Linux binaries and the Start OS packages. So Start OS users can easily start running Datum on their software, their node. You can check it out, github.com/ocean-xyz/datum_gateway. Hopefully everybody got that. So currently right now, only Linux-based distributions are supported. Other OSs will be supported in the future. And of course, you need to run a Bitcoin full node, and Bitcoin Knots is recommended. I'll talk about that in a second. They say that approximately 1 gigabyte of RAM plus 1 gigabyte of RAM per 1,000 Stratum clients plus Bitcoin RAM node requirements have to be applicable here. So I'm saying that if you don't have 8 gigabytes, you're probably going to be SOL, at least 8 gigabytes minimum, probably more if you really want to run your node seamlessly. And of course, you need all the mining hardware to reach the system running the Datum gateway. So as for Bitcoin Knots being highly recommended, they say this because it gives miners fine control on how they wish to construct the block template. And they say other node implementations, including Bitcoin Core, it's severely lacking in template control options. And this, they say, unfortunately, is a centralizing force which partly defeats the purpose of decentralized block template creation in the first place. So again, for people that want to run this datum, you could simply do it as long as it's Linux-based distribution / running Start OS, and you have the necessary hardware, and of course you're running knots. But if you're running something like Start OS, I believe you could just simply check some boxes or something like that to change your core to knots. And if you're running Bitcoin Core, like I'm running right here on my computer, I can just simply download and run knots, and I don't have to resync the blockchain. It just works. So it's a seamless transition to go to core to knots and vice versa. So yeah, very cool stuff. It's open source, written mostly in C. Very cool at that. So yeah, thoughts, Joey.
Do you recommend it?
If you're if you mine and you want to do some block creation and you want to see the process, how it's done, absolutely. I haven't dived into it because, like I mentioned, I'm running core. I do intend to try knots in a not too distant future. So I don't have any firsthand experience, but just basic what I read, why not? Give it a try, at least for a little bit. But again, this is only if you're using ocean mining. If you're going to be, from what I understand, if you're using one of those solo pools that you're using your BitAxe and pointing it to, I don't think this is applicable. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I don't know enough about mining to talk that much about this, but I will say broad strokes. One thing I've noticed about the current cycle that we're in is that the number of people willing to experiment on everything from mining to hardware wallets to different node software, filters, good example, good catalyst for all this stuff, I think. And the ease with which you can do so now, thanks to a lot of these open source projects. This is the first cycle we've had this. Before it was sort of can't touch certain things, not worth it. It's hard to run stuff. It's hard to use some of these software interfaces. And now that's basically completely changed. It's still not 10 out of 10 easy. It's not, Nintendo 64 easy, but it's a lot better than it was, it feels like, even 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm happy to see this. It's been fun watching this stuff happen over the last, I would say especially the last like 6 months, but probably even before that.
When is the last big news we had that was terrible for Bitcoin?
Almost never. Yeah.
It's been a couple of years. I'm thinking to 2020.
Well, think about like when you're thinking about news that's bad, like I think the news that's bad now is it's relative to the sort of size and speed that the Bitcoin train is going, right? Like 4 years ago when we started the show, or 3 years ago when we started the show, we would have said that Italy raising the tax to 42% was huge news. Now it gets mentioned in passing during another story and it won't get brought up again. Like it just doesn't matter. And so what would have to happen for it to be considered big, bad news? That's really the story. We always have something that's maybe not harmful, but something to look out for in Bitcoin. It just doesn't matter the same way it did a couple of years ago.
That's fair. Maybe a repeat of what happened in 2020 though, when we had FTX, BlockFi, Voyager,
like a big blow up. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and that really just impacted the price in terms of how much we believe in Bitcoin, the principles of Bitcoin. If nothing's changed, but
let me ask you a question on that topic. Do you think that if BlackRock took a significant stake in Coinbase or in Kraken or in whatever, that it would be an indication that one of those exchanges was about to go belly up?
I don't know. Do you think that's the case? I just think if on the surface, if I hear that, it just seems like they want more exposure into what they offer. Do they typically do that? Do they get it into something before it goes tits up? Or
I'm not sure. I just think that it's kind of an interesting option for them to prevent a big price decline, right? Like you mentioned there, FTX and all those other ones, when they went belly up, what happened to the price, right? It was 60, 70% drop basically in an instant. And BlackRock now has a pretty significant interest in not allowing that to happen and the firepower to prop up an exchange if need be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that a bit more, but just came to my mind there.
Maybe it's advantageous for them to see the price drop significantly in a short period of time because, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't purchased any and added to their balance sheet.
I don't know.
Maybe the price is prohibitive for them to do that, and if it drops significantly, they look at it it's a decent price to buy when it's 35,000-40,000 versus what it is now. Well, my BlackRock.
We'd have to ask Tim BlackRock, not Tim Apple, but Tim BlackRock. See what he thinks.
Let's talk about Marathon. We got a few minutes left.
Sure.
And Marathon, I think they might be entering the degen territory, given what they've done this past, right? So this past week, they said they opened a $200 million line of credit, and they're going to be using part of their Bitcoin as collateral for this. They're currently sitting on around 26, almost 27,000 BTC, and that's valued around $1.8 billion. So from this, they're only using about 3,000 of their Bitcoin for this line of credit for the collateral.
Mhm.
And you're looking at the market cap of Marathon, it's 5.5 billion. And so this 200 million is just a small percentage of their overall valuation, but they're using this new line of credit to funds to capitalize on strategic opportunities and for other general corporate purposes. It's kind of vague, but it doesn't really scream like I'm doing something good with this money. It's just they need it.
Well, what these guys all do now is they take money and use the money to buy more Bitcoin.
That's what they did in the past.
Yeah.
They bought so in August they got $249 million worth of Bitcoin, and at that time they used convertible senior notes that are due in 2031. So that one in particular, they said they bought Bitcoin. This one, they're saying they're using it for funds to capitalize on strategic opportunities and for other general corporate purposes.
What strategic opportunities?
I don't know.
What strategic opportunities does a miner have? Right?
Buying another company?
Yeah, or acquisitions, right? Like it's got to be one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things, but
they're going to start up a media arm.
I don't know. And this is no small company too.
Yeah,
with respect to how much hash they have, they're trying to get to 50 exahash per second this year, and they're almost there. So that's I'm looking at that. They're taking on more and more debt. Large company in terms of hash rate. It seems like there are some comparables to Core Scientific. Not trying to say this is going to happen. As long as the price
Boomer's in the chat saying the same thing, that he thinks they're high on the list of companies that might get wrecked if the next bear market were to start or when it starts. Yeah.
So as long as the price of Bitcoin doesn't go below a certain price, I don't know what that price may be, but they're going to have some real problems, just like MicroStrategy would. But in terms of MicroStrategy, the price of Bitcoin needs to drop significantly for them to be in problems. It might have to be dropping below $10,000 per coin for MicroStrategy being a problem. I could be wrong with that number, but Marathon, I don't think that it has to go that much lower. I'm going to guess less than 50,000 per Bitcoin. Is that possible?
I don't even know. Like this is why we've talked about this in the past. There's a good way to leverage your Bitcoin position, and there's a bad way to leverage it. There's the thinking that we just discussed. You could leverage your Bitcoin position to buy more Bitcoin, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's not. It at least shows you really, all in on the Bitcoin thing. But this whole idea of strategic opportunities is not one that I am fond of, because if you're a miner, it's hard to get, it's hard to be active outside of hardware or energy and see benefits to the market cap of your company. So unless you're using it as a treasury asset boost, which you honestly right now might not be a bad time to do it. But I just, if I was a shareholder of this company, it's just another sort of head scratcher for me, I think.
If you think it's going to be going up, the price of Bitcoin is.
Now's the time. Yeah, now's the time, right? But
then they're just doing the same thing MicroStrategy did, but just
years
after.
Yeah. But MSTR has cash flow that's not related to Bitcoin. Right?
Yes.
Like this is the thing, right? So you have that free cash flow. If you have FCF that's, enterprise software or whatever he's doing, that's one thing. But if your free cash flow is also dependent on the price of Bitcoin, not to mention, we've talked about this before, but it's worth, reminding people, what are miners every single bear market? They're forced sellers. This is not, you don't want to be leveraging Bitcoin to buy Bitcoin and then have to sell and have your margin call or whatever, that's not the situation you want to be in. And as I mentioned, strategic opportunities outside of power or hardware, both of which are nearly impossible to execute well on because of the competition now. I don't see the case for this. It could be too, Len, that there was you know, that these guys still think the strategy of announcing something like this and watching the stock price go up on the announcement still works, even though it hasn't worked now for probably a year and a half. Maybe that's another angle to take, right? Have we ever had anyone from Marathon on the podcast?
No.
No? Okay.
We have not.
Hmm.
I don't think we will.
I have no desire to. I just can't remember if we did or not.
So the answer is we're probably never.
There was a time when we were ripping a minor basically.
Yeah.
Like there was always somebody on, right? Now, if it's not Jeff Lucas or Ben from Biff Arms, like I don't really. I would have
Bob Burnett.
Burnett I would have on. Yeah, of course. We like him a lot. Dan Roberts I would have on if he wanted to come on from Iron. Yeah, but otherwise, I don't know.
I think that's it, Joe. We're at an hour and still a bunch of stories.
Sure. That's good. Let's rip another 40 minutes or so. Come back if you're on audio, if you're on video. I'm always amazed how many people are watching on Twitter. Like, I guess that's where I would watch too, but I can see a bunch of you guys on Twitter. So hang in. We're going to the notable news stories. Get your wig out. See you in a bit.
Don't be a cock. I should get the wig out. Where the heck is it? Right over there.
138, we'll call it. Okay, where do you want to start? We're starting international, I guess. That's usually the
I only have one that I really want to talk about. This Department of Revisions. I think that's what you call it.
Department of Downward Revisions. Yeah.
No, well, this is upward revisions. But
it's downward in terms of like good or bad.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we gotta. That's the line we draw.
So there's new data from the FBI, and it reflects that there are a bunch of new crimes that were not initially reported. And so between 2021 and 2022, apparently 80,000 violent crimes, a little bit over that.
Amazing.
80,000 violent crimes were not captured in the statistics. And this includes almost 1,700 murders.
That's it? Is that a lot?
I guess one is too many to me, but 1,700
is so diplomatic. One, that's right. Even one is too many. That's right.
How the fuck can they go and like just totally overlook 1,700?
Because they're full of shit. Because one of the candidates is not well liked by the establishment and its organizations and its three-letter agencies. He was very loudly trumpeting the crime was up during the debates. Now the debates are done. He's having to, again, I talked about this on the show. He is having to, again, try and convince people that he was right with a three-pronged sort of attack against him, right? He no longer has the debate platform. The people who he listened to listened to his social media already knew he was right. And now he's got to kind of find a way to cross the chasm to these other mainstream and legacy media consumers to get this message out. He can't. No one in the normie world knows about this. Nobody. And that's exactly how it's meant to be. You know, what else can you say?
It's not being reported by the CNN.
Why would they?
Yeah, 100%.
Is Jim Acosta going to get on fucking TV and say Trump was right? No. Is Brian Stelter, who's like apparently younger than Joe Burrow, that's hilarious. Is he going to get on there and fucking say, yeah, Donald Trump was right? No, he's a dummy doughboy. Is formerly great Canadian fact checker Daniel Dale, who now works for CNN, is he going to hop on and be like, yeah, sorry, I was wrong on this fact check. It actually did go way the fuck up, including violent crimes. No, he's not. He's not going to do that because they all hate the guy and they're mask off about it. And these agencies are mask off about it. And that's all there is to it. You just have to assume that the press, and now, we've known this for a long time on this show, thanks to economic data, but the data is all made up. It's to drive narrative. It's to nudge behavior. It's to do all that stuff, but it is not to, the intention is not to report facts on the ground. It never has been. Astronaut meme with the gun. Never has been.
I'd love to know how they were first captured, because if somebody was murdered during that time, how did they categorize the death?
COVID.
To not be. I don't know
what else can you say? It's not meant to be funny, but this is the other thing. Like, if you remember what that couple year period was like everyone was dying.
Did that murder the person? That fuck. I don't know, man. Let's just go on.
I just want to say one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
Share this with one person in your normie life and see what they say. If you're listening and watching, Len and I are not going to care. I know, they're going to say, that you're nuts. But they're not. They're definitely not going to be like, "Wow, this is a revelation. Maybe I should look at all the other data being reported." That's never going to be the response.
Look, do you think that they're going to stop and run a dominant and say, fuck this, I'm going to go down in this rabbit hole? They got so many fucking things they got to deal with between higher prices and then their job. Like
WNBA championship.
I heard they lost $40 million this year.
Yeah, the WNBA Players Union just opted out of their deal. They want more revenue share from the viewership now that Caitlin Clark's in the league, even though that league of petty fools spent basically 18 months downplaying not only her talent, but also her marketability, including the MVP, who's African-American, Asia Wilson, calling her entitled and talking about her white privilege, even though Asia Wilson went to a fucking private school. What a fucking clown show.
I have no idea
Let it burn the fuck down.
Have you watched more to this?
Caitlin Clark should ask for double or triple what the other girls get, both in terms of contract and in terms of revenue share. And if she doesn't get it, she should go play in Europe and take whatever European league she goes to mainstream right away. The WNBA doesn't deserve players like Clark. They deserve the Angel Reeses and Asia Wilsons, but they don't deserve Caitlin Clark. Yeah, exactly. I'm way too deep in this.
Have you watched
the chat? I'm addicted. I'm not addicted. I just think
have you watched more than a second of WNBA?
Len, I
want the answer.
Yes, I have. This year I did.
That's all I want to hear.
This year I did. And I have more than once put a Caitlin Clark jersey in a shopping cart online and not bought it. But I got half of mine to do it just to spite these other people. Honestly, I'm driven by revenge and spite more than anyone knows. And this is a great example of where I could really get my rocks off. I got to tell you.
How the fuck do you even go that path? Never mind investing the time, but going down the aisles of like, say, a Walmart and seeing,
I mean like on an online shopping cart, not like at a store. I'm not going to Costco and looking for the WNBA jerseys.
I don't understand. Fuck. I'd rather wear like minor league hockey from like the 1970s.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm kind of speechless right here, so I gotta gather my thoughts. Anything else you want to talk about with respect to notable news?
No.
Whew. All right, because I got a beauty story from Canada that's coming out of Quebec. CBC story that Quebec mulls scrapping family doctors for healthy patients.
So great.
The government is looking at how to basically assign family doctors to patients and triage to the more vulnerable people up there to get it. So like people that are more sick, they'll get access to family doctors more than any other person. Studies that are being done by the government for several months so that they need to do this. So like I have nothing to say about this. This is fucking bullshit.
Guillaume's in the chat about this. Guillaume's in the chat. He's got our boots on the ground report. They said it wouldn't happen.
I want to know more about this because like they said it wouldn't happen.
Boomer talked about it on the show last week, right? So
yeah,
Boomer said that he doesn't have a family doctor. Yeah, I was going to say I don't want to mention it, but you did say it on the air. You don't have a family doctor and haven't had one for a long time. Like,
there's currently 500,000 sick Quebecers that don't have a family doctor.
What's sick?
I don't know, but they say sick.
Yeah.
So
okay.
They say that people that have serious issues like cancer, mental health issues, diabetes, and shit like that should be assigned a family doctor first over other people.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like, if you look at this, isn't there like universal healthcare that's got to be administered in Canada?
No, we're a joke. Country's a joke.
I don't want
universal healthcare is not universal. It's not even close.
This is going to the point where it's they're basing it off of health. That's the people that are, and that kind of is the case when you go to the emergency room. Like they triage, somebody that
you'll wait forever if you're not dying. Even if you are dying, you might wait forever, actually. But if you're not bleeding, I'll say you basically wait forever.
So, anyways, let's talk about this beauty story to another one. These are just coming on left and right and center. Ontario's provincial government, they're planning on giving residents a $200 rebate check.
Hell yeah. Rebate for what?
I don't know. It doesn't say. We're going to get more details. Okay. According to the CBC, October 30th is when we're going to be getting more details surrounding this, because it looks like there's also the possibility of an early election that's going to be called, from what I recall, I think June 2026 is when we're going to be getting the election. Am I right or wrong? Or 2025? Either way, I think June comes to mind. And so there's no date yet as to when these checks are going to be coming, But October 30th, we will have more information. Why it is they're going to be sending out these checks, probably when they're going to be sending out these checks, and the amount of money that's going to be sent out for these checks. It's like a UBI type thing, right? Like everybody's going to get it. It looks like nobody's going to be discriminated. It's every resident of Ontario, from what I gather, is going to get one of these checks.
Cool.
Wonderful stuff. I don't know about you, Joey, but I'm going to be taking that to buy some Bitcoin through
100%. Yeah, 100%. Why would you not? I mean, what are you going to do with it otherwise? Paper
Yeah,
strong?
I'm happy we don't hear people saying I'm going to buy some MSTR. Or
donate it to the Science Center. What do you think? Like, I don't know.
They were going to close that, right?
I'm pretty sure it's closed. Yeah.
Because of
the roof? Was it the roof?
Yeah. And it's going to cost countless. I don't know what the number is.
God, the amount of whining and crying on Twitter about the Science Center closing. Who the fuck cares? Boomer in the chat. They're literally buying votes and no one cares. Yeah, that, they always have, always will. Every government does this. I'm so jaded now about election cycles. I just show me the poly market odds and let me know when to buy my Bitcoin, and let's ride this thing to 150K minimum.
This whole $200 rebate check kind of reminds me with the sale or the 99-year lease of the 407 back in, I think, 1999.
Are we buying that back?
You're trying to?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be possible. That thing's a cash cow. And I don't think whoever has ownership of that, and I think even the CPP has a little bit of ownership of that as well.
Probably.
So it's just, yeah, forget that. The fucking thing about that, remember, to go back, the PCs at the time decided to lease it out for 99 years. And they did that with the intention of balancing the budget prior to the election to show, look, we balanced the budget. They didn't really sell off assets, but it was a darn fucking close to selling.
It's the ultimate cash cow. Yeah.
And they did it, and we're now suffering the consequences of it. And there's one clause in the lease, which is borderline criminal. I'm not saying it is, because I'll get probably in trouble. So that's why I say borderline criminal, is that the province of Ontario cannot build a competing highway.
Wow. No way.
For 99 years, essentially they have a monopoly over that stretch of area, and no competing highway can be built.
That's only the busiest place to drive in the entire country, probably. So
it was supposed to alleviate a lot of traffic from the 401. And just this week, I went to the zoo, in fact, the Toronto Zoo, and I saw the 407 as I was passing by. Fucking nobody was on it.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous. You look at that, and that would have been an awesome highway to help alleviate the congestion somewhat on a 401, but also maybe build out in an area of the Greater Toronto area that currently is being built out, but it could have been done sooner because it would have been serviced by that highway. To fucking give it up for 99 years for the sole purpose of winning one election. Like, that's fucking bullshit.
Show me the incentives, right, Len? That's what we say in Bitcoin.
And now I see this $200 that is being handed out. That's why I'm saying there's kind of a similarity here between the timing of it. $200, what can it really buy in the end, too? I'm sure I'm not trying to downplay it. There are people, probably $200 would mean a heck of a lot.
You can't take $200 to Costco. You can barely take it to Fortino's these days. So where can you go with $200, right? It's probably, in most cases, 1/15th of your mortgage payment. It's, a tank of gas in your truck. It's, what else is it? I don't know.
Even if you're a family of 5.
Yeah.
And you get, say, $200 for every person in there. And you get,
it's the new Call of Duty game twice.
It really isn't a lot of money.
No.
And I'm not trying to say give us more. It's just, fuck, man. Anyway.
Yeah, it sucks.
Canada's inflation numbers came in. They're lower for the month of September. They came in at 1.6%. 1.6%.
That's low. Any idea what that means?
Well, we do have a decision coming out by Tiff and the crew later this week, in fact. And this could potentially add more fuel to the fire that they might aggressively lower rates. It was anticipated they were going to lower rates, 25 basis points, maybe 50 basis points. But now 75 has come and being a contender.
Some people calling for it, yeah.
Could even 100 basis points be it?
That 50 is probably a guarantee. But 75 would indicate a real problem, even though I did watch a bit of QP today and our finance minister was pumped about the rate cuts so far and seemed to be excited that another one was on the horizon. So 1.6 in inflation means that people are not spending any money. And that's either because they have to save it or because they don't have it. So, make it that, which, I mean, I'm not breaking any news to the people who listen to and watch this show, but fuck me, man. That's a low number. That's not great.
If it continues like this, theoretically, there could be a month where we could have deflation.
Yeah, maybe.
And then what happens then?
Yeah, the only thing stopping it is that energy is really low. Like I think a barrel of oil is like $70 right now, or even less than that.
Yeah,
which won't last, right? That's going to make its way to 100 at some point in the next 2 years, and then you're going to have a real problem. But in the meantime, TIF will get up there and just lop another, few inches off the top of the rate. Not seeing any stimulation in the housing market. A place near me, not to dox the area, but sat on the market for 2 weeks and sold for 50 grand under asking. That hardly ever happens around here. The sort of inventory in Dundas, very low as well, which is also pretty rare. It's not doing what it should be doing. I realize there's going to be people out there who are going to say, well, it takes time. There's a lag. Sure. But those inflation numbers are actually backwards facing. So it's all the economy is already hitting the rudders, or is the rudders, or something's hitting the rudders. What is that saying? I don't know. But the economy is already weakening significantly to have that number as the inflation print. And it doesn't seem to me like anyone in Parliament wants to talk about what it means. They hop on the trend, the Twitter trend that cuts are good. Cuts are good. If you have bags of assets, cuts are great. But if you don't, like most Canadians, then they're terrible. It's an indicator that things are hitting the skids a little bit. So be on the lookout, and food bank usage is going to go up. I was up in, I was down by the waterfront on Saturday morning for the Step Up for Wayside, and the police chief, Frank Bergen, noted that, there has been a clear uptick in the amount of people who are living in these shanty towns. And he's frustrated by it. Wayside's frustrated by it. And I think Canadians in general are frustrated by it when they see, and I won't even get into it, but what Canadians are seeing, and they don't like it. And instead they're seeing people who have lived here a long time suffer with addiction, suffer with these downtrodden conditions, downtrodden situations. And there's not really a way to get out of it like there was, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. So enjoy the rate cuts. Like Tiff said, enjoy the moment. Okay, buddy, I'll be there. No problem. What's your guess? 50? I think it's later this week, right?
Yeah, I'll throw a dart on the board and say 50, but the fuck do I know? It is, I think, Wednesday.
Canada meeting. Is it Wednesday? Okay. Yeah, me and Mike will probably talk about that tomorrow too. I'd be curious to hear his thoughts. I'm sure he's got some. Yeah, the 23rd, 9:45 a.m. Yeah. That's so funny. They're gonna cut. So they're gonna cut to what then? They're gonna cut to let's say they cut 50. Will that be a 4 handle or a 3 handle still? Or a 3 handle or a 4 handle still? What's the Bank of Canada overnight rate? Bank of Canada overnight rate
375
is I don't know. Why doesn't it say? Oh, here we go. It's 4.25 right now. So it'll be 3.75 if they cut 50. That's low. And so when people say, when the sort of traditional finance guys get on Twitter and want to dunk on the Bitcoin guys for loving the low rates, they always say, we're not going back to zero. That time is done. I don't fucking think so, man. Canada is heading to zero real quick. And the economy is headed to zero too, it looks like, in a lot of ways. We also just, for what it's worth, sort of an adjacent story, we dropped 2 spots in the tax regime friendliness rankings from like 15 to 17. I mean, I don't know how there's 14 places worse than us or 15 places worse than us for taxes.
Well, so corporate taxes over in Canada compared to the United States I think it's cheaper. last I checked, I could be wrong, but corporate taxes in Canada is cheaper than in the United States.
Man,
I'd love. I mean, am I wrong with that?
individuals, like I was looking today just for shits and giggles because I wasn't feeling well, and I'm like, what would it cost me to get health insurance in the States?
Here it
In
is.
this,
So US, they pay a flat tax for corporate 21%. In
Yeah.
Canada, it's 15%.
yeah,
So like you look at that, I know this is just a small segment, but look
super
at
small.
that. You could just say that setting up a corporation and running it in Canada may net you more money.
Oh my god, yeah, it won't for sure.
But this shows you like it's competitive at the very least.
Fine, I'll give you that. But the point is that we're paying a lot of taxes for a lot less services, both in terms of availability and quality than we ever have. So yeah, Boomer in the chat saying we're going down to 3% overnight. I bet you we go lower than that, Boomer. I don't know when, over what time horizon, but I think I'm coming around to Keith Dicker's point of view that modern economies are going to absolutely rip to zero at some point in the next year or two.
So what's going to happen to food banks and stuff? Are they going to be even longer lineups?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
It's going to put more added pressure if the economy is not doing well. You're going to see
not to mention that the Canadian dollar is weak. We don't grow any of that food here anymore. Like we import basically all fruits and vegetables at this point. Our dairy thing is a joke. That's like become a popular topic again. The supply management deal. Like we talked about this 2 years ago, that the problem with having a weak dollar in a society that doesn't produce anything is that imports become more expensive, but it's made much worse when 50% of your population is not working and relying on government subsidy. Either they're retired or they're unemployed or they're disabled. There's some combination of the three. And for those people, man, like you really feel a stuttering economy and a weak dollar, a weak loonie. Yeah,
dude,
big time.
What we're saying, he's right. He's saying these food banks need to be diverse and inclusive. That's one way to help. Yeah. Could you imagine, like, they must get a ton of muffin stumps over there.
God.
And Caitlin Clark jerseys. It must be fucking stuck to the brim of those things. Right? Nobody fucking wants them.
Does anyone even want the Tim Hortons muffin stumps anymore? They're probably dog shit.
Between the two of those items, yeah.
I don't know.
Nobody wants those things. Researchers from Atlantic Canada, they've looked at data with school buses. And
I love this story too. This is incredible.
Yeah. Well, their area of the country needs to have an expedited shift to electric buses to avoid further health problems in children. And I guess we can now pinpoint the reason why kids are shitty in math. It's because of the diesel exhaust. It must be, right? Like, if this is
what health problems do the kids have? Does the report say? I saw the headline, but I obviously didn't read the report.
Okay, I can give you a little bit of detail here. So it's around almost 250,000 kids daily get moved by those buses in Eastern Canada. And they say that each bus trip could represent over half the daily Health Canada recommended exposure limit to CO2. And it was determined that the concentration of CO2 inside the bus while on the school route, would be at 518 parts per million, significantly higher than when the bus was idle at 441 parts per million. And Health Canada recommends a daily CO2 exposure limit of 1,000 parts per million.
And yet the teachers are just blowing hot air all day. That's unbelievable.
When I look at this, I mean, shouldn't they be dishing out masks to kids? Because that worked in the past, right? Like,
why don't they just put a mask on the bus?
On the tailpipe.
How hard is that?
Right. Like, I agree. So this story on its own is interesting, but if you couple it with this other one that I came across, it kind of adds a little bit more flavor to the story. He's the city of Calgary. They ordered electric buses for a pilot project, and take a guess how many buses were delivered in total, Joey.
How many did they order?
It doesn't say, but I can tell you how many were delivered.
Okay, 3.
You're close. It's 0.
Okay.
So the reason why, Joey, is because the company went tits up.
Oh, good.
And this comes after the fact the city spent money on building out charging ports for the buses. And I guess this is one way to lower CO2 emissions for the kids. You could order these electric buses, not have them delivered, and have the kids just be forced to either walk or take bikes to school in the fucking cold. Because in that part of the eastern part of Canada, gets awfully chilly. It's a damp cold that gets
you have to wear a mask. It's so cold.
And if you need more than that, like, that's one. The fuck is going on, man? What the fuck?
I love it. The electric buses arc in this show has been pretty good. We've had a couple of good stories over the last 3 or 4 months. Remember the one about they had to return the electric buses because they weren't working, or there was a fault or something in the back of there's like the heater at the back of the bus. What was that
Oh
story?
yeah,
It's like the thing
they
would
use
turn
diesel
on.
electric so they use diesel generators to like.
Yeah,
I love that story to heat up the people.
that's so great. Just throw a
Heating-
diesel fucking generator on the bus.
It's like I do like
Oh
Teslas,
my
but it's like a
god.
Tesla towing a diesel generator to
There's
charge you.
no bottom. There's no bottom.
No, they're yeah, and there's so much more further down we're gonna be able to find. So, Calgary, like staying over there, there's a unique listing, housing, real estate that's been listed over there. So it's an 1,100 square foot home that was listed in Calgary, and one could visualize how large 1,100 square feet is. And it's nothing out of the ordinary, except for this house has 13 bedrooms in it. Count them, 13 bedrooms. How the fuck could you shoehorn that? But that's a cash generating machine. You want to talk about a cash cow? This is like, hypothetically, say each one of those tenants are paying, say, $300. This is almost a $4,000 a month
Yeah.
gross.
It's like a bungalow. It looks just like a little bungalow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not very big, but like tall, but it's not very wide either. Like, and neighbors are coming by and even scratching their head. How the fuck could you have this many people in there?
Yeah.
This many bedrooms.
Well, they
But
had
they did it.
the student from the house next door, like down the street. He's like, we have the same house. And the reporter's like, how many people in your house? He's like, 5. Yeah. This guy's like, well,
Like
this
a
guy's been trying
reasonable
to jam
amount.
13 in there.
Fuck. But this is what we come down to. People are just trying to squeeze every last drop
Yeah.
out of their assets. I don't know why this person is deciding to sell it. Maybe they're under duress, financial duress, or they're getting pushed by the city for having too many people over there. Why the fuck do people even park cars if you had 13 people?
Or like
if even half of them
like
have cars.
you'll ruin the city like sewage pipe too, like from your house to the main line. You'll, probably affect some other infrastructure in the area. If I had to guess, I don't know exactly what, but you've seen this story a million times now. And this is what, by the way, the government is trying to encourage, right? Putting more people on your property, laneway homes, extra apartments, whatever. Take a loan against your house and build something and rent it out. You'll just have to live there forever and keep working until you die to pay the mortgage, but at least you'll help alleviate the housing crisis, right? That's what we're told. God, this is just a hilarious, like, where are we in the timeline between prosperity and ruin? Like on the continuum, how close to ruin are we as a country?
Depends who you talk to. Some people will say we're like 27 point something years away, or 28%. So I really don't know. All I know is I'm going to ride this out for as long as I can and convert as much as my Canadian dollars into Bitcoin as possible. And yeah, enjoy it. Like Boomer's saying, the owner of that house opted into Trump's shitcoin. Maybe that's why.
He's been buying a Worldwide Liberty coin or whatever.
Did you hear about how much of a fucking flop that was?
They tried to sell 300 billion, right?
Million,
and they sold 13 million.
11
million.
You're very close in terms of the target. That's represents around 4%.
Wow,
I think.
Cool.
Of the overall. So that was on the first day of sales. Like things may.
Well, I mean, it's gonna pick up.
No, if you look at the sales delivery of people that purchased, it's really flatlining after the first day. Let's be honest. How much more hype is there going to be?
None. And by the way, you can't transfer the coins either, so it's not like you can sell them. So
yes,
yeah,
I agree, and I don't understand. So the token is non-transferable. Then how can they determine a price?
It's meant to give you voting rights. So they've determined the price, like they set the market value, and then they sell you the coins. And after that,
you get to participate in DeFi activities like borrowing, lending, and creating liquidity pools.
Creating liquidity for someone else, maybe.
The only thing they missed here is NFT mints. Right? Like they checked off a lot of boxes. How did they fuck? Maybe that'll be the next one.
I love that story. Trump. It's amazing that Trump is running a shitcoin scam.
But
securities fraud.
And I was working at McDonald's after this. Like, I don't think this is coincidence. Like
he's all in. The election's in 2 weeks. Do you realize that?
Hang on. It's the 6th.
It doesn't feel like it, does it? It's like it's just this
Is it the 6th?
one laughing, meme story after another. When is he gonna do whatchamacall? Rogan. He basically confirmed he's doing it on PBD show. So now I'm just waiting for that. That's gonna be the last probably big thing before the election, right? He'll probably let that go the week of.
Do you think he's gonna win now? A lot of people have
Polymarket pointing to the win, Kalshi pointing to the win.
How could she?
I don't know.
Though?
Nate Silver's thing, Silver Bullet, showing some real Trump momentum now too. So, not only does it look like Polymarket wasn't just a couple billionaires trying to fudge things, it looks like they were right and early, at least on the momentum. So let's see. I mean, anything is possible. There'll be tons of cheating, obviously, which we know, but both sides be trying to do it. I don't. It's like elections don't matter the way that everyone thinks they do. And we have to keep that in mind, right? Keep a clear view here. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're buying Bitcoin because you know intuitively that elections don't matter, that your vote doesn't matter, that the spending orgy is going to continue, that the overseas funding is going to continue, that all this stuff is not going to slow down, it's going to accelerate, that even if they wanted to villainize you as a Bitcoin holder, it's almost impossible to align these people because they're too busy insider trading to read or write policy. It's a joke. Like you should be stacking so hard right now because the fraud and charade is like right in front of your face 24/7, 365. The only thing you can do is buy Bitcoin.
Yes, I 100% agree. And people hopefully are doing the same thing. We're going to end up in the same place regardless of who gets there. It's just, will it be an accelerated one or a decelerated version? So are you a decel or XL? That's the two things.
Just don't be an incel. Decel, XL, no incel.
That's very good. I'm not sure if you heard, but Ontario universities, they're losing a fuckload of money as there's a lot less international students coming in, and they were bringing in tons of money along with them. It's expected in Ontario alone, the universities are going to lose $300 million by themselves.
It's not enough.
And next year, you're going to be happy to hear they're going to lose $600 million. That's the expected number.
Good.
The fuck, $600 million next year. Now,
have you been to a university campus in the last little while?
When I played the Kingdom 94, it was held just outside UFT, so I walked by.
So how many new buildings did they have there?
Very few. It's the same old ones that I remembered.
When I went to Brock years ago, like a year after I graduated, I went to my convocation or whatever. And in the year that I wasn't on campus, or like the 8 months I wasn't on campus, there was 2 new buildings erected. Yeah. And now if I look at the Google Maps view, there's multiple more buildings there that weren't there when I was a kid. Now, granted, they have more students. Mm-hmm. The problem is, Len, we've talked about this before. Colleges and universities are running so many dog shit programs for kids who are too stupid to do anything else because the pressure to go to a post-secondary institution after high school is so great, both from their family, from their teachers, and probably, if we add a third prong to that, from friends and whatnot too, in terms of like romantic prospects. You got to go to university, got to go to post-secondary. They're not giving you anything of value. And instead what you're seeing is these kids fund insane, sort of, small on-campus, basically militias in, like DEI offices and secondary chancellors and VPs of bullshit and, cookie making and basket weaving. Cut all those programs. Cut them all. Every university should be hard to get into. Every university should be minimally expensive. And every university should have top tier professors getting paid top tier dollars in small numbers. That's how universities should look. And if they don't look like that, then the value that you're getting is simply not that good. As we know with currency, as we know with commodities, as we know with anything in the real world, the more of it there is, the chances are that the less value it carries. And you're seeing that in universities now, and they're gonna have to make do. You guys shouldn't have been accepting 1 million kids from overseas over the last 5 or 6 years. It's not a sustainable business model. You don't get to choose. You don't get to completely fuck up the demographics of the country just because you want to make a couple extra bucks and name a building after yourself. Tipper or whatever that guy's name is, who runs Conestoga. Fucking guy names a building after himself every 2 weeks. Time's up, man. Time to find a real business model or get the fuck going. Find somewhere else to work.
Why can't we open up a CBP building?
We should.
Conestoga?
CBPU.
No. We're not doing the Trump route, but just simply donate to one of these existing colleges.
Oh, you want to get a wing or something?
Mm-hmm.
We might be able to donate enough for like a bench, but I don't know if we'll be able to get a wing anywhere. Maybe at University of Toronto Met, right? University of Toronto Met, the medical school, they're like doing 75% minority applicants have to pass and have to get in. Like I get the feeling a lot of donors are going to stop contributing there. Maybe the price just went down to get a bench over at that school.
That's good. So
don't get sick, because if you get a kid from Toronto Met, you might accelerate your own situation a little bit.
And you don't want to get sick in Quebec because you're not going to find a family doctor too. So you have to be in the right province, the right time to get sick. And anyways, see, private jet before university, but also the ETF before all that.
We got a lot of things to work on here. Yeah.
Son of a gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one, didn't I come up with one more idea? The keys. Remember we were talking about the multi-sig?
Yeah, we're gonna run a multi-sig service here in Canada where you keep one set of keys and then the other one I'll just punch into my notes app, and we'll do that for you. Small fee, of course, but it'll be very, very nominal, very fair. Yeah, CBP keys. Yeah, CBP keys. We'll call it
CBP hodls.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
We will hodl. So yeah, man, I think that's it, Joey. That's 35 minutes.
Good show. It's a little shorter tonight than usual. I am starting to feel more and more sick by the minute here, so this is a good time to wrap. I'll be back with Mike Campbell tomorrow, sick or not, because God knows Mike has been bulldozing through a few serious health events here. So we're looking forward to talking to him, getting back on the program. And until tomorrow, my friends, take care of yourselves.
And don't be a cuck.